Hey guys, I hope all is well. Here is my build for the Affliction League, which I call the Girls, which is a double strike raider. And I took inspiration in the creation of this build from Mathel's double strike champion, which he calls the Boys. The build is basically Vaal double strike, which gives me 2 clones paired with the Savior unique sword, which gives me another 2 clones, and I also utilize Vaal Ancestral War Chief, which gives me another 2 units. So all in all, there are 6 additional units, making a total of 7 altogether, including myself. I know that for Affliction League, a lot of new gems were released in the form of variants for existing gems. However, I decided to center this build around the Vanilla Double Strike, which is the bleed-based variant. With that being said, I utilize a pair of unique gloves called Feral's Pounce, which makes it so all my attacks apply bleed while I have the cat's stealth aura active. The reason I opted to use these gloves is because without it, Double Strike will only give a 25% chance to bleed on attacks, and I would need to build another 75% bleed elsewhere. And since the damage from Vanilla Double Strike is optimal if the enemy is bleeding, it would be ideal for me to have 100% bleed chance. So instead of getting bleed chance elsewhere, and since I'm not planning on using the damage over time from bleeding itself, I just need something that can give me guaranteed bleed, ergo Feral's Pounce. Now, the gloves do require me to be in Cat's Stealth, so because of that, I need one piece of my gear to grant me Aspect of the Cat. The downside of this build concept is that Aspect of the Cat grants me an aura that will actually grant me 2 different auras. The 2 auras alternate with each other after a short duration. One is Cat's Agility, which gives 10% increased attack and cast speed, and the effect lasts for 6 seconds. And the other, of course, is our required Cat's Stealth, which gives 100% increased crit chance, 15% chance to avoid all damage from hits, and 100% increased Stealth, which basically just reduces a monster's aggro range for you, all of which lasts 4 seconds. So the downside is that you'll only be applying bleed for 4 seconds out of every 10 seconds, but honestly, with how strong this build can ramp up to, most rare enemies will die pretty quickly without Cat Stealth active. Really, the only time you'll be dealing with both auras alternating is during long endgame boss fights. There will be periods when you're in Cat's Agility, which will give you faster attack speed, which is good for your mobility because we use Leaf Slam, but during the periods when your Cat's Stealth is active, your DPS will quite literally double, and you'll also get a boost in survivability. Either way, most builds won't be able to kill endgame bosses within 4 seconds, and will also require some movement to dodge mechanics, so it doesn't matter too much which aura you're in. All in all, this is more so a very budget-friendly build and can easily be a league start, which I actually did league start this character as a humble double strike build. And as I started making more and more currency just by playing the game, I was able to build it stronger and stronger into the multi-million DPS with an acceptable amount of basic survivability with capped resistances, capped spell suppression, and decent evade chance. The build is capable of quickly clearing T16 maps, including Guardians and Conquerors, and I've so far been farming Temple, Blight, Legion, and Syndicate, and it's pretty comfortable doing all of those as well. And it was even able to pick me up the Exarch and Eater Voidstones. Real quick, I just wanted to ask that you please like, comment, and subscribe for more videos. So at League Start, all I did was 3-link Double Strike with Ancestral Call and Melee Splash, and then 4th link Chance to Bleed when you can. Then just grab Herald of Ash and Ice, and you're pretty much good to go and do whatever you want. You can add whatever damage support links you want, build whatever elemental DPS you want, or keep it strictly physical DPS and just have fun with it. I would recommend one thing though, utilizing the Chance to Bleed support gem is really nice in the beginning because we don't have access to Feral's Pounce at League Start, so it would be ideal to build Bleed Chance while leveling, just so you can unlock the best DPS possible in the early stages. The build is in no way optimized, and to be frank, I kind of just threw a bunch of stuff together that I thought might work, tested it, played with it a bit, and tried to ramp it up as I went along. And it turned out pretty well. I definitely enjoyed building and leveling this character, and I absolutely loved the Vaal double strike melee playstyle with all my clones and totems backing me up. And it was just awesome and so much fun, and I'd absolutely recommend anyone to League start as double strike. It was actually pretty smooth. Alrighty, so here's my character. Starlight Afflicted, level 95, about halfway to 96. So, it's a bit of a meme build because I have the Savior. Could definitely have a much higher DPS weapon, but I did want the reflections because I just thought it would be pretty cool to walk around with reflections, honestly. And they're not useless. They do of course boost your DPS, but just probably not as much as having like another 1k DPS sword like this. But yeah, other than that, let's talk about Gemlink. So we have Vaal Double Strike. I just picked up a 2020. Then I got increased crit damage, awakened ancestral call. I went awakened because of the extra additional nearby enemies targeted, and then Ruthless, Ice Bite, and Multi-Strike. For auras, I have Hatred, Defiance Banner, Precision, and Aspect of the Cat. For mobility, I have Leap Slam, Fortify, and Faster Attacks. I did opt for Leap Slam instead of Whirling Blades because I do like jumping around over terrain and not having to go all the way around. I just never liked that. It was pretty annoying. And for utility, I have Molten Shell on my left click so that it activates and I just have some armor. Then cast when damage taken, Immortal Call for some thickness, and then I also have Ice Golem just so that I get some extra boost in DPS whenever I do get hit. Then I have Blood Rage, which gives me a bunch of attack speed and a little bit of Leech. Next, I have Vaal Ancestral Warchief, which I get to summon two of them, which is a huge boost in my single target. And lastly, Assassin's Mark with Mark on Hit, so that I do extra damage to all rares and bosses with a small chance of generating a power charge. Alrighty, so for my chest piece, I did go with Dial's Malification because that plus 30% to quality of all gems in green sockets is amazing for Awakened Ancestral Call. So what that does is normally if I 20% quality this gem, I would get 15% extra distance of my target attack range. But with the extra 30% on top of that, that goes from 15% to 37%, which is massive. Pretty much turns your any melee skill into a ranged skill. It's amazing if you can afford to sacrifice the qualities of not having like a real chest, then this is huge. This is amazing quality of life for all melee builds, and I would highly recommend trying it out. Other than that, I do have 4 green sockets because the extra 30% quality does boost the damage significantly. And I just left these 2 as red sockets because the plus 2 to levels is more significant than the plus 30% extra quality based on my calculations. For general, my general armor pieces, I do just have like spell suppression, life, resistances, and some attributes. I put my aspect of the cat on my boots with spell suppression and of course movement speed. And for my gloves, obviously I have Pharaoh's Pounce. For my swords, I do run this Rebuke of the Vaal just because it gives me 1000 DPS. Total DPS, that's LE plus Fizz, and then 20% increased attack speed. And as you know, the meme, the Savior. For my amulet, I have Whispers of the Doom, which gives me an extra curse that I can apply because I do have curse enemies with vulnerability on hit on my diamond ring, and of course the mark on hit assassin's mark. So these 2 curses gets applied every time I hit a rare or unique, which is amazing for DPS, but other than that I will always have vulnerability on everything that I hit. So going back to my amulet, it's just more strength, some crit multi, life, resistances, and damage while leeching, which is huge because we're always leeching. On the ring, I just have a tiny bit of life, a little damage here, a little crit chance, LE damage. I do have shock nearby enemies for 4 seconds when I focus, which I activate, which I usually use for tanky rares or just bosses in general or uniques, just because it shocks them for 15% shock, which is a huge boost to DPS. And my other ring, I have the taming, which is just a bunch of resistances and a bunch of elemental damage, which is nice. On my belt, I did go for Stygian Vise with a bunch of resistance and LE damage, and a little bit of life. And for my jewel, I have more intelligence, life, and some damage. Intelligence is very important for this build because of increased crit damage support. You need 111. Alright, so for my flasks, I have immunity to bleeding with increased recovery on my life flask. Taste of Hate for some damage and damage mitigation. Diamond Flask with extra crit chance, and Jade Flask with extra evasion rating. My Tincture is amazing, in my opinion. It's Culling Strike, and 25% of overkill damage leached as life, and 87% increased damage against enemies that are on low life. So that's almost double damage on any thing that I get down to low life, which is a huge boost to DPS. Alright, on to my passive skill tree. I just started off, going attack damage, get the mana and stats, get the life. Quick step is helpful for move speed and suppression, one with nature because of damage. All this is pretty much damage. Sustainability, damage, sustainability, frenzy charges, damage, spell suppression, damage, melee strike range, which is nice, damage. Here I do have the increased mana reservation efficiency, help us fit our 4 auras. Then I have, of course, as much frenzy charges that I can get. I have this Watcher's Eye Prismatic with added cold damage while affected by hatred, and gain flash charge when deal critical strike while affected by position. We go heavily into crit, so we are fairly often doing critical strikes, so we should have no problem with Flask sustain. Cloth and Chain for some extra resistances and evasion. Get some life here. +1 frenzy charges, increased damage per frenzy charge, and increased damage per frenzy charge, power charge, and endurance charge. I grabbed this for a leech. Here's some more damage and crit multi, accuracy, crit multi, crit chance. And so this is amazing because I was running melee splash in the beginning, but once you have enough passive points to spec here this far, you can pick this up and all of your melee skills will now deal splash damage without any repercussions, which is amazing. Then I get this for increased attack speed per enemy in close range. I get this for immune to poison because my Helm has higher evasion rating than it does armor. Then monsters cannot block attacks, which is huge for our damage sustain. 120% increased crit chance with only -20 crit multi, that's huge. Here I have plus melee strike range with swords, more life, increased evasion if I've been hit, which is just more tankiness. Life here, damage, frenzy charge, and intelligence, life, attack speed, and a little damage. For ascendancies, like I said, I did go Raider. So Way of the Poacher, +1 max frenzy charges, frenzy charge on kill, and frenzy charge. It's all about frenzy charges. And then Avatar of Slaughter. Per frenzy charge, you have evasion, movement speed, and attack damage, which is amazing. I did go Quartz Infusion with Avatar of the Veil for thickness and tankiness. Plus, it gives me phasing, plus 40% chance to suppress spell damage is huge, and avoiding elemental ailments, which is amazing, and applying exposure -20 all res. And we do a lot of elemental damage, so this is also a huge damage boost as well. I did run Rapid Assault in the beginning just so I can have Perma Onslaught, but I unspec'd that and went this way instead as I progressed towards higher maps and started bossing. Alright, last but not least, for my Affliction tree, I started with Coated Blade so I can apply Tinctures, Nature's Concoction, Adjacent Flasks, so that's my Taste of Hate and my Diamond Flask. Gain 3 charges when I attack, and 30% increased effect if I attack. So that's huge. And then Oath of the Magi, of course, plus 25% increased max life if I have equipped gloves with no socketed gems. Right here, my Ferrule's Pounce. No socketed gems, easy plus 25% max life. So I don't have to worry too much about being like a bit of a glass cannon. So I just wanted to show one more thing on path of building calculations. So normally my regular DPS is about 1.2, 1.3 mil. However, once you factor in the bleeding and you're in cat stealth, it instantly doubles. And then on top of that, when I activate my focus, plus 15% shock, another 300k DPS. And then, we're always leeching, so we always leave that on. And then if the enemy is on low life, boom, 3 mil. And then of course, if I got a few more levels and picked up another like jewel socket somewhere and swap this one out for a pair of Forbidden Flame jewels, then I can easily include Onslaught or Rapid Assault, or even have Tailwind. The ramping up of this build can go into astronomical DPS levels. In my opinion, honestly, 1 to 3 mil DPS, nothing to scoff at. Of course, there are builds nowadays that can help with a lot more DPS, but for a league start, I mean, it's not bad at all, honestly. It didn't even cost that much to put this all together. Of course, with the couple hundred more divines invested into this build, you can definitely bring this up way higher. So yeah, that's all I wanted to showcase for now. And I had just wanted to say I had a ton of fun building this character, playtesting it, putting a bunch of stuff together, seeing what worked, seeing what didn't work, and I had a ton of fun this league. It was a blast. So yeah, please like, comment, and subscribe, and tune in for more videos.